Now let's talk about, look, if you're a young filmmaker and you want to be inspired, let's talk about some people for a minute. Let's talk about someone like a James Gunn, who began his career at Troma Films. James Gunn worked at Troma, and he worked on movies like Tromeo and Juliet. He made his bones working for Lloyd Kaufman, who Lloyd Kaufman, if you don't know, and his company Troma Films, Lloyd Kaufman is an indie film legend. One of the franchises that Troma has is the Toxic Avenger, and the Toxic Avenger is now being made into a big budget movie from Legendary Pictures, starring Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger.
Oh wow!
It's coming out. And Troma, if and Lloyd will correct me if I'm wrong, Troma Films is the longest existing independent film company, I believe. Let's welcome Lloyd Kaufman onto the Film Threat podcast. Lloyd is here. Lloyd is a legend. Lloyd is a hero of mine. Lloyd Kaufman, thank you for joining us on the Film Threat podcast. Lloyd, how's it going?
Thank you, Chris Gore. We've known each other for many years, and you have not changed at all since the time you were the special guest moderator for one of the very early Troma Dance film festivals.
That's right. Yeah, we've known each other since. I mean, I know your work from the 80s because I used to work at a video store, and the Toxic Avenger, late at night, we could put on the Troma films. You know, if it was after 10 o'clock, like we can put on some Troma movies. But so I've known of your work, and then just meeting you, I think in the 90s is when we first met. And then I met and hung out with you at Cannes maybe 20 years ago. And just like you have a business philosophy that, you know, and you put out movies that have endured. How have you endured and survived? I mean, I was saying earlier that Troma, I think, is the longest existing independent film company like ever, you know, lasted longer than Miramax and all these other companies. What do you attribute your longevity to?
Well, for one, I follow and listen and watch Film Threat, because that's the most entertaining and informative media.
Oh,
then may I suggest that the Troma fans are unbelievable. They're the special sauce. There's no way we'd be here, Chris, without the wonderful fans. Again, they on hashtag SHAKESPEARE SH, they acted in the film, they shot the film, they even put money into the film knowing they're going to lose. They have been booking the movie in theaters, museums, all that kind of stuff. It's really the fans. I just came back from six cities, Texas and Oklahoma City, and it was fans drove me around. Two fans, William Akers and Matt McNew, plus Little Spark Films, Catalina. Carita, and they provided a Toxie and a Crazy Sarah, and we must have driven 2,000 miles around Texas, but all fans. I tried to get them to pay. I tried to pay their gas. I tried to pay their motels. They did everything themselves. And how lucky are we? I mean, that's the real answer. And the internet helped. The internet doesn't hurt.
Well, you're getting so much love in the chat here. Let me read some of these comments here.
Oh, thank you.
Patrick Lemire says, my friends and I watched so many Troma films to get through the pandemic. Thank you, Lloyd. And I'd like to remind everybody that Troma has a streaming service. Cancel your Netflix, cancel your Disney Plus, subscribe to Troma Now. Troma Now is a streaming service from Troma, and it's a bargain for all the movies that you get.
Well, thank you.
I want to just throw in that plug for you, Lloyd.
Oh, appreciate it. Actually, Troma Now is the future, but now. And every month, 6 new movies by the James Gunns and Chris Gores of the future get put on the service. Plus, you get 50 years of our movies and acquisitions and Uncle Lloydie's movies. And even better, it's the first month is free, and then it's only $4.99 a month. And Netflix and the Mouse have raised their prices. We have not. We're still $4.99 a month, first month free, and you're right, it's a pretty damn good. My wife and I watch it every night. There are all sorts of movies, new ones that I've never seen, and they're terrific. John Ferry is the if you want to submit something, john.ferri@troma.com is the curator, and he's doing a terrific job.
That's the thing. I know so many filmmakers, Lloyd, who've had their movies distributed by you, gotten released, you put them out into the world, and you've just been such a big supporter, and you're getting so much love. I have to read some of these. Starlaw says, Kaufman rocks. Internet Rec Room says, I got tickets to Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Yeah.
That's so great. Internet Rec Room, we love you, Mr. K. So, and then also, that's the coolest office I've ever seen, says Rod DCM 20. Yeah, look, you've got all the memorabilia up. That's awesome.
Hold on. Wait a minute. I'll give you, while we're talking, let me show you around.
Oh, that's great. Is this the Troma offices?
Yeah. Here's Michael Hers is not in on Friday. That's his big golf day. And also we're making a movie. So some of our people have been engaged to be in the movie by Brandon Bassam, who wrote #Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
We have a huge graphic department, 35 people. Here it is. She does the work of about 80 people, and John is the cure. There's John Ferry somewhere. Where did you go? Here he is. Say hello to Chris.
Hey, there you go. Hey, John. Good to see you.
John's the curator of the amazing Troma Now.
Yeah.
And here's a guy. I don't know who this guy is, but he's here named Rocco. Where did you go? There he is, and he's about to work for ABC. And here's Kyle. Kyle, who's is in charge of all the technical and also supervising editor. And we can go downstairs too later on if you wish. If you want to see,
God.
If you want to see,
great, like all the memorabilia. Sergeant Kabuki.
Oh,
man.
watching these. Oh, we should go down and surprise her.
Okay, yeah,
we'll go down.
I'm going to read some of these comments as we're
Sure.
going. People are going nuts. Micah Henry, USA Up All Night with Rhonda was my doorway to Toxic Avenger. And Solomon Thornton, my friends got me into Troma films. Thank you again for the wicked entertainment. The Chicago Box, good people still exist. Piers Bronson, welcome, Mr. Kaufman. Cooper says, as a kid, the Troma VHS covers always intrigued me. There you go. Gabriel says Netflix could definitely use some competition. Where's Terrier? Netflix is shit. So I would agree. So there we go. See that stuff? Love the artwork. There you go. The film philosopher, seeing where history is made. How's the bathroom though? That's the real question, says Gabriel.
Yeah, it's always occupied. Just here's we're in the bowels of the Troma building right now. There's a lot of great collectibles, and I'm walking through.
That looks like part of a set, Lloyd. Is that part of a set?
Well, actually, you're close, Chris. Hey, Raheen, are you here? Yeah. Raheen, where'd you go? You see here stuff.
Oh my God!
Stuff here, and then we have we have Troma Direct TV, and here's some of the wonderful TromaDirect.com. Sorry, TromaDirect.com if you want to buy Troma merchandise, T-shirts, whatever you need.
Well, you're always selling. The film philosopher sent in a $4.99 super chat, very generous, and he says, "Lloyd,
there you are. Say hello. This is Raheen.
Nice to meet you.
Raheen, good to meet you. Awesome. Oh, we froze.
Oh,
no. He'll be back.
I'm probably it's sketchy. The
internet.
It's not so. You look great. Could you know how to turn that light on in there? Well, I want to show you the amazing studio.
Oh, let's check out. Lloyd, there's the film philosopher wants to thank you. Says, Lloyd, thank you. I grew up watching Toxic Avenger and listening to punk music. Thank you, the film philosopher, for your super chat. I'm gonna make sure Lloyd hears that though.
I think the internet is
unfortunately the internet down here is a little what do you call it, shaky.
Sketchy.
But right now, Brandon Bassam is directing this new movie, Bring on the Dead, and it's a kind of a satire of. Thank you, Rahim. Sort of a satire of Saturday Night Fever, and about half of has been drafted to be dancers, Brooklyn dancers from 1970 something. And I worked on Saturday Night Fever and Rocky.
There's a great Lloyd. You wrote a book, Make Your Own Damn Movie, where you talk about the beginning. Well, I'll wait till the internet gets better. But boy, I just appreciate all the love for Lloyd in the chat. He's an inspiration for independent filmmakers. And Lloyd, can you hear us?
I hear you very well. I see you. I hear you.
And
I'm going to take you into the bathroom. This is the this is Michael Herz's executive bathroom. So pretty nice. So we have a little kitchen here. We have these delicious candies. And today is Free Lunch Friday. We serve a traumatic free lunch for the Tromites.
Well, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want to make sure you get this when you're back at your office here, Lloyd. I want to make sure you get this super chat from the film philosopher. Says, Lloyd, thank you with 3 exclamation points. He says, I grew up watching Toxic Avenger and listening to punk music. That's great. And then, and also want to ask you, this is Guy DeBoard says, and I remember when this happened. I see on the wiki article the Troma channel was terminated from YouTube for violating community guidelines. I'm definitely sold on Troma Now. What happened with that? What happened with YouTube, like canceling your channel? What could you possibly have done?
I don't know. It's it's funny because the majors have you go on Netflix and watch Sally Forever. Very good, very terrific series, but people vomit on each other. This beautiful woman shits on a man's face, and it's all there. It's nothing implied. There's no subtlety. By the way, this was given to me by Gloria Swanson whilst I was working for John Avildsen in the old days.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
Well, you've got to read your book. I recommend to everybody in the chat, everyone watching this, read Lloyd's book, Make Your Own Damn Movie. It's an inspiration. What a great book, But do you have any idea why your YouTube channel was canceled?
I think it's the algorithm. I think the algorithm lets the majors do anything they want, and the whole idea is get rid of the independents. So actually, Michael Herz, 2 days later, by the way, the fans made such a big stink. YouTube put the channel right back on in 48 hours. So they knew they had done something wrong. Somehow they must have gotten, I think our fans, they piled on. They also stopped a lot of nasty lies about me and they by third-rate podcast, whatever they are, trying to make their bones by tearing down a sad old man. Anyway, the fans destroyed them.
Oh God, yeah, no.
Went back into the.
Yeah. I mean,
See
Lloyd.
how real I am. See how real I am, Chris. I still blow my nose. I discovered Oliver Stone. He never blew his nose in public. James Gunn did, however. I have to say.
There you go. Now, I think you may have leaked this to me. So I think because on a podcast we can talk about you. I mean, you basically helped a lot of filmmakers. I mean, James Gunn probably being the most famous. You're going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Is that right?
Yes.
When have you started shooting? Did you shoot your cameo yet?
Not yet, but it's coming up very, very soon.
Nice.
It's conveniently going down to Atlanta a day or two before the New York City premiere of #SHAKESPEARE SH at the Museum of Moving Image, as well as some theaters like the Cinema Village and Film Noir. So buy your tickets. It's The Tempest through the eyes of Lloyd Kaufman. Shakespeare.
Now, James Gunn doesn't send you the whole script, right, for Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
I mean, the whole script. I eat with the extra. I'm basically, with the extras. I don't go to the fancy, I'm in there in the trenches. But he always makes a speech to the whole gang when where he says, "This is Lloyd Kaufman. You know, he gave me my first job, and thanks to him, I'm doing great." So the stars, and then I go back to the holding pen for the extras. So he's great. John Cena, I had a great time with him on Suicide Squad. I heard he speaks Chinese, so I tapped him on the shoulder and addressed him in Mandarin. And boy, he knows. He's got more. I don't remember as much as he can speak. It's been 50 years since I graduated from college, where Chinese studies was my major. And also, John keeps a piano in his dressing room. He's teaching himself both Chinese and piano playing. He's amazing. And that Peacemaker series is fabulous. I'm gonna make peace in the world if I have to kill everyone. That's so James Gunn. That is so James Gunn. It's just wonderful.
Well, great. I want to ask. We have a lot of questions in the chat. I'll get to the chat shortly, and a lot of love for you. But I want to ask, like, the Toxic Avenger is now being remade as a big budget movie starring Peter Dinklage with through Legendary Pictures. What's it like to now see your fabled film franchise? My personal favorite, I love the first Toxic Avenger, but Citizen Toxie I really love. I think so there have been so many Toxic Avenger films, now a big budget version. How do you feel about that? And can a movie that is a fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, exploitation superhero movie, can it translate to a big budget film? What are your thoughts about that experience?
Well, I think that Michael Hers and I have been very fortunate. They're not the first group. Legendary is not the first to option the Toxic Avenger, but thank heavens they have shot the film, and they've got a director, Macon Blair, who knows Troma better than I do. I mean, he loves Troma. He's seen Terra Firma, Combat Shock. Citizen Toxie is my favorite Toxie too, by the way. And although the musical Toxie, which played in Broadway and in London, is delightful. You can take your grandmother to see it, as well as the people with the bones in their noses. It appeals to everybody. It's wonderful. Music by Bon Jovi's David Bryan. Pretty cool. Anyway, Toxie's been in the cartoons. He's been in comic books. He's in children's pajamas. I mean, he's all over the place.
And toys.
Cartoons are very good, too. They're on Troma Now. The cartoons from 1989, they're excellent, very funny, and same animation people as the Turtles, and very well written, really good writing.
There was a Toxic Avenger toy line, I remember, in the 80s. And correct me if I'm wrong, is the Toxic Avenger children's cartoon the first children's cartoon based on an R-rated movie? Is that a fact?
It's certainly the first children's cartoon for 5-year-olds based on a movie in which a young boy has his head crushed by the wheel of an automobile. I think it's the first one. Yes. How that happened, just, this is the good thing. Every once in a while you hit the roulette wheel, but we don't make movies to make money, and we certainly don't make money. But every once in a while we hit the roulette wheel, and maybe with Legendary, Macon Blair is terrific. He wrote, you've seen Murder Party and Green Room and Blue, whatever it is, and he made one terrific film. He's directed one film called "I Don't Feel Safe in This World Anymore," and it's very, very good. It might have won Sundance. I'm not sure. Not that I hate Sundance, but
that's why
he's great. He'll be up there with James Gunn and Eli Roth and Trent Haga and Film Threat and all the greats.
Well, that's why you created Troma Dance. Troma Dance is a film festival that has no submission fee. You send your movie to Troma, and you pick a bunch of films, and you screen them in Park City, Utah during Sundance. Oh, and people are correcting me here. So, RoboCop. There was a RoboCop cartoon. So thank you, VR. RoboCop cartoon, and Rambo had a cartoon, says the Chicago Box. Wow. So okay, cool. Well, you're in good company with them. That's great. So yeah.
Well, when RoboCop opened in theaters, the critics said whoever made this movie must have seen the Toxic Avenger. We have a big footprint, no question about it. The Deadpool guys love Troma. They talk about Troma. Now they got the Brechtian breaking the fourth wall from, like Brecht a lot and Thornton Wilder, and they credit old Uncle Lloydie with a lot of this stuff that in the 70s was frowned upon.
Yeah.
But,
someone also said Conan cartoon, Patrick Lemire. The film philosopher has a question for you, Lloyd. What do you hate about Sundance? Is it too corporate? I would say I agree. It's too corporate.
Well, it's not a festival. We did. Trey Parker really created Troma Dance with when we all went there with his first movie, Cannibal the Musical. He and Matt Stone, and we rented. They rented. Matt and Trey rented a big condo, and we all slept on the floor. And the people at Sundance were so rude and snotty, and especially to Trey and Matt and the Troma team. So Trey had the idea, rent a bar or a room and have a one movie festival, Cannibal the Musical Festival, and make it free. And there were lines around the block, and Redford and company were pissed off. So the next year we did start Troma Dance, 1999, I think. And we did it there for 10 years. And finally we got policed out. It's not a festival, really. And then so we moved it to New York. No, we moved it to Asbury Park, New Jersey. And then we moved it to New York for 2 or 3 years. And now we have this, due to COVID, we have a great venue up in the Poconos called the Mahoning Drive-In. It's one of the few that still play 35 millimeter and they preserve prints, and they have a wonderful, in July, Troma Dance will be a 3-day event with mainly Troma Dance, but also some of the Troma classics.
I love that. Well, I agree with you. Sundance has become way too corporate and way too agenda driven. And all I describe Sundance as like a wrestling match where you already know who's going to win when the match is over. It's like this movie sold at Sundance. Well, that was predetermined before you even went to Sundance. Yeah. They just hold the, they hold the information. A question here for you. What films inspired you to become a filmmaker? Asks Solomon Thornton. So what films inspired you?
Well, if you want to know more detail, read my first book. All I Need to Know About Filmmaking, I learned from The Toxic Avenger. My first book was written by James Gunn. The first book that I wrote was written by James Gunn. But it's very funny, and I talk a lot about the people who inspired me, mainly the auteur directors, because I was freshman year at Yale University. I was stuck in a little tiny bedroom with a movie nut who ran the Yale Film Society, Robert Edelstein. And he and his cronies, the Film Society, had a big stack of French magazines, Cahiers du Cinéma. And in those magazines, the auteur theory was being propounded. This is 1965. And it was the journalists were Chabrol and Jean-Luc Godard and Truffaut, and they were transitioning. Not to be women, but to be go from journalism to filmmaking. And so I bought into this auteur theory in which it's all about the director. Movies are the director's event, and the director should be all powerful. The movie should reflect their, see, I'm using the incorrect pronoun, their, not his or her, but their soul, brain, and heart. And I bought into that, and eventually I had... so the people that inspire me are Mizoguchi, John Ford, Howard Hawks, Chaplin, Keaton, Stan Brakhage, the greatest visual artist of my lifetime, Fritz Lang, these Sam Fuller, people of that ilk. Again, I'm 76, so the Roger Corman, I saw his movies as a kid and as a college student, and it proved that one could make very provocative movies with good casts and good directors for not too much money. And Roger and I have been buddies for 50 years. In fact, Stan Lee and I searched him out back in just after I got out of Yale, and we wrote a script. I wrote a script based on his idea. It got optioned a few times, but we were very good friends. And Stan Lee, Lemmy, they were John G. Avildsen. They all were in our movies, and so were great to us. And unfortunately, they're dead. Hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm is dedicated to my stepmother, Sigrun, to John Avildsen, and to Stan Lee. Return to Newcomb High was Lemmy's last movie, and we dedicated that movie to him. Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead.
More comments here. Patrick Lemire says, I love that the roots of Troma is French New Wave. That inspired me in college as well. French New Wave was like, oh, these journalists that went on to make movies, and they did a magazine that was very anti-establishment. So that's great. So many great comments.
The magazine still exists, and I read it. I speak French and read French. Yeah. So this stack of magazines nobody was touching, so I just kept reading them and looking at the pictures. And in those days, they had boobies, which they didn't have in the Yale Daily News.
There you go. Even better. Shelby AC asked, did you go to the Yankee Diner at Yale? I loved that.
Yes. It was the Yankee Doodle. And they put a piece of butter on the hamburger. I'm vegetarian now, but it was a very small place with, I think, 4 stools. I mean seats, not turds. And delicious buttery hamburgers. And there was always somebody was always waiting to get a little chair or take out. It's gone now, I think, Yankee Doodle.
And
we used to have the White Castle that stayed open all night in New Haven.
Love White Castle. Love White Castle.
Yeah, me too. They actually helped us in when we made Stuck on You, which is on Troma. All our movies are on Troma now. That's the best comedy, I think. But White Castle provided a meal a day and then we have a very funny joke in Stuck on You with White Castle, visual kind of a wordplay kind of thing.
Question here, Lloyd. Do you know if you'll be attending Dragon Con in Atlanta this year? Says Anarchitty 83.
No, Dragon Con. I supported Troma supported Dragon Con for basically since it started, and recently we went there and they really insulted us. They put our booth after all these years. They put our booth in between a woman selling flasks to drink and somebody else selling cell phone covers. And we have a line. Whenever I go to these conventions, there's always a line of autograph and people who are going to buy our merchandise. We have a huge variety. If you don't want to go to a convention, you go to tromadirect.com, where it's cheaper than buying at a convention, tromadirect.com. But at any rate, they really... So we had a big line, and then a security guy came. He's clearly showing me his gun. And he's saying, these people are complaining your line is interfering with the selling of cell phone covers. So they pushed our line about a mile away, and we had to send people down there to text back and forth, and we lost a lot of money, and they really fucked us. So never again will I set foot. I don't even want to go to Georgia with the voting record, but I'm very honored that James Gunn is giving me a little bit of love in the third Guardians. So very, very grateful for that.
Lloyd, can you read the screen right now? There's a question in French.
Oui. Je pense que vos conférences lors de l'étude de cinéma. I think many grades says, I think many would like to see you in the conventions outside of their movie studies.
That's great.
Yes, I'm so charming. The Cinémathèque Française has done several seasons of Troma. I'm sure they're going to screen the hashtag Shakespeare SH. Museum of Moving Images is premiering it on April 8th. At the Museum of Moving Image, as well as Cinema Village and Film Noir and Nighthawk in New York City. So we may have some luck, who knows.
And the film philosopher, who I'm going to see in Anaheim later today, because we're going to WonderCon, asks, what do you think is the number one thing deterring independent filmmaking today?
Well, the number one thing is the fact that the industry is a cartel. It's fixed, like you said. And unless you know how to negotiate the corridors of power, it's very hard to get in with the big guys. Eli Roth is a people person. He's very talented. He's a people person. He knows how to talk to them. James Gunn, too, very, very talented, the greatest guy in the world. And he knows how to do it. But most of the mainstream are scumbags. And that has a lot to do with why a lot of us don't particularly care what's coming out of Hollywood's asshole. So I think that's the biggest detriment to brilliant young filmmakers who and the proof of it is that you have these shows like the late night shows where they're constantly showing clips by people out in the YouTube, brilliant people on the YouTube who ought to be directing movies. People a lot more talented and younger than I, but I don't know if they'll be able to make it. So they may have to use the Troma system of making your own damn movies and trying to distribute yourself, which I think is definitely a possibility. I think you can do it now. There are so many venues that we just had 400 people in a brewery in Cincinnati, Ohio, 400 people, $25 a piece for a weekend. And brewery, the theater, Regal, AMC, whatever, they're bankrupt. All they do is show, you know what they show, and I don't think they're doing too well. Our fans eat a lot, they drink a lot, and they're perfect. That's so there are all these other venues. Austin, we have a venue with a couple of hundred people that can play for a week, that kind of stuff. There are ways to get around the theatrical. In fact, you don't even need theatrical, but the movies that I make are stuck in the past, and they have thousands of people, and they're made to be viewed in a community environment. It's a lot more fun to see a Troma movie with a crowd than by yourself.
Are you optimistic about the future of independent film?
Excuse me? The future?
Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I'm optimistic because I think that there's so much talent out there that they won't need the cartel. This is like Russia a little bit. You get ignored. In Russia, they take your passport away. In this country, the major media ignores you and in favor of the companies and art that is either very woke or that pays a lot for advertising. So we can't do either. We're definitely not woke, and we definitely don't have enough money to advertise so that the New York Times might note that this is my 50th year making movies and 7 books. We own a building. We've made The Toxic Avenger and other movies that are considered classics, and apparently not good enough. Not good enough. Yeah. Not good enough. We've had all those things you've talked about. New York mainstream media, they don't, we don't exist. Pretty interesting. Whereas we went to Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio, standing room only. Somehow they get it. The critics, daily, what is it? The Dallas Daily Morning Daily Dallas Morning Daily did a big piece. So the mainstream, and LA is even worse. This fucking LA the LA throwaway magazine,
LA Times. Yeah, it's terrible now. It's
very bad. Sure, they're horrible.
No journalism at all.
Throwaway magazine, the throwaway one, the LA Weekly. I think
LA Weekly's worthless too. I remember in the 90s, the LA Weekly used to do investigative reports. It was actually something substantive. Yes. Now it is worthless. It's absolutely worthless. Same thing with the LA Times. Like they are not, they don't serve the consumers. They serve whatever the mainstream narrative is.
Correct.
That's all they're about now, which sucks. And I know you've always been very anti-establishment, Lloyd, but Film Philosopher asks a question. How many times has Jeff Bezos tried to buy Troma? It's kind of a joke question, but a serious thing for a minute. Like if someone came to you and said, look, I want to buy Troma and I want to make it part of Warner Brothers, or I want to make it part of AT&T, would you sell Troma to a large corporation?
Well, hey, Sam Arkoff, who was the chairman of American International Pictures, a kind of Troma of the past, except much more successful. It birthed Roger Corman and all the famous people that Roger Corman birthed. But Sam Arkoff told me, and we were very close. I think he's in my book, and I'm in his book. And he wrote a good one. he said that his biggest regret was selling AIP to Viacom. It wasn't called Viacom in those days. Marty Ranzerhoff, whatever his company was, Filmways or something. I can't remember, but he said he really, really, really regretted it. And what are you going to do? So I would have to take a lot of money, I think. I don't think Michael Herz would consider selling Troma unless it was a huge, huge amount. We've sort of made it to 50 years, so it's sort of interesting to see what might happen. I could croak right now, right?
Well, at least we'd record it. At least
over 70.
Yeah.
But I think the company has a life of its own, thanks to Toxie and about 12 movies. So I think something will happen. Some young people will come in and maybe keep it going and adapt. We're trying to create a Tromaverse now, a community not unlike the metaverse. And Michael Herz, that's Michael Herz's main project now, and we're trying to scrape what money we have together to hire some people to slowly make that happen.
Well, you've always had like the Troma connected universe. Like all the Troma movies kind of happened in Tromaville, and that was before Marvel did it. This was way back in the day. So, and I just so admire and appreciate like 50 plus years, and I've been doing Film Threat for 37 years now. So
that's terrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, we're still here doing the same thing, and I feel like the people are just saying like they can't believe how much energy you have. Like in the chat, they're all just complimenting you and laughing at your comments and just saying, like I feel like when you have a purpose, and Troma's not just about the movies, it's a purpose, it's a mission, it's something bigger than all of it. It's an attitude, it's a community of people coming together to celebrate. So Lloyd, unfortunately we have to wrap it up because Alan and I have to drive to this convention, can you come back? Can you come back and wait? You've got an upcoming event. Aren't you doing an event that's coming up soon, right? Like plug the event. Shakespeare
April 8th. If you're in New York, buy tickets to see hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. It only plays one night at the Museum of Moving Image, but it plays a week at Cinema Village, which is considered the finest art house in New York, and also Film Noir in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And then I think it's moving to the Nighthawk Cinema somewhere in New York. So come see it. We got a lot going on. We have panels, the actors, make your own damn movie people. Toxie will be there, Troma celebrities. I just regret that most of my 50-year friends are up there in that great screening room in the sky. So I wish Stan Lee could have seen this one.
Yeah, Stan Lee, I was fortunate enough to interview him a couple times, and he's just a legend. And what I feel lucky about with doing Film Thread is I've gotten to meet my heroes. So thank you, Lloyd, for spending time with us.
Well, thank you. You're a hero, Chris. Come on.
Whatever. I don't
evolve together. And I remember we had a good time at Comic-Con one year up on a roof, and
that's right. You came to the G4 booth.
Yes,
was the G4 booth, or were at a party? Maybe both.
Yes, big party, big time party.
Yeah,
right. I met your wife, lovely, and we had a great time. Great time with the Troma team at Comic-Con. We'll be at Comic-Con this year.
I'll see you there. I'll see you in July. at Comic-Con. Lloyd, thank you so much for being here. Please come back to the Film Threat podcast. I will talk to you
anytime.
Arrange.
You got my digits. Thank you, Al.
Great. All right. Take care.
Hi, Chris.
We love you. All right.
Happy April Fools. Rabbit. 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 Bye.
Bye.